Good afternoon, dear friends. We're continuing our January expert dialogues in Moscow as part of the Open Dialogue Forum. Joining me next is Chen Qiufan, a science fiction author, researcher at the intersection of technology and future societies, and writer of the acclaimed book Artificial Intelligence 2041. Today we'll explore what the future holds, how we can prepare for it, and the role science fiction plays in shaping that future to be comfortable, convenient, and safe for humanity. This seems like the perfect starting point. What value does science fiction offer?
I think why science fiction matters because we share a lot of, reports. We share a lot of infographics this morning. It can help people to see a specific version of the future, but it couldn't help people to immerse, to live in that kind of future, to feel the future, which is more important because we have to prepare that kind of future shock to the people, right? And all this prediction, is all linear in a way. So we use the historic data set to find a pattern, and we use to speculate the future. But the reality is not going in that linear manner, right? A lot of things, technology evolve in a exponential way. So does AI. So I think science fiction basically gives you an open space, a lot of possibilities to help people to feel how to become a worker, to become a teacher, even a student in the age of AI. How does that make you feel? Is that fear? Is that anxiety? Is that hopeful? So all of those feelings are legit. Is fear. So I think what's more important is if certain version of the future become reality, how should we respond? How should we start to think and prepare for that kind of future? And that's what science fiction was written for.
Next question is a personal one. I know you travel extensively and connect with people worldwide. How do you collect information to shape your ideas about the future and artificial intelligence? What about Earth most often surprises you? Perhaps specific details that truly shift your perspective?
Yes, I collect data, of course, through reading, through, papers and documentaries. But what's more important, I work as an anthropologist. I do field work. I visit the factory, the school, the hospital, and even live with the people there. I spend some time with the people and see how they interact with technology. So actually, about 2 months ago, I visited one of the biggest laptop and server manufacturer in China. So I can see all the streamline. Basically, they have an AI quality detector. So the streamline workers, sometimes they will name the AI, and sometimes AI make mistakes, and the workers will mocking the AI and making fun of it. So I can see this kind of very human reaction, is self-protection psychologically. And I can see this kind of feeling because it's not easy for them to adapt. So they create some tricks. They create small rituals working and living with technology. I think this is what human does all the time. So not the technology always surprise me, but how people respond, react, and try to reconcile the reality and to understand what is going on. I think that's the most surprising part, and I put some of those into my stories.
Indeed, real-world practice often diverges from theory, especially in how people adapt and evolve under new technologies. We know this is a feedback loop. Deploying a technology elicits responses from individuals, companies and society, which in turn reshape it. That's a crucial point, I fully agree. Let's begin with the broader framework. Pick a benchmark like 2030 or 2041, whichever you prefer. What will be the new normal in that not-so-distant future?
I think like AI assisting work will be a daily norm, like all this PowerPoint, all this Excel, all these documents. The first drop might from AI, so it's dropped and generated by AI, and human might use the prompt to revise it. It's already happening, but in the future is by default. And I think if you go to the hospital, the doctor might ask you, have you talked to the AI? So if you feeling something, so by default you might consult the AI doctor first. So does the student. So they came across some problem, they came across some issue, they might talk to the AI first. Later on, if the AI couldn't solve it and it was too complicated, maybe they'll go for the human tutor. So I think that's by default, people not seeing AI as some kind of monster or some kind of, threat, but they embrace it as part of the life and part of the work. So I think that's maybe not necessary wait until 2030, maybe in another 3 years or 5. So that's close enough, right?
Let's outline the key areas, starting with education. How will schools transform when AI already outperforms teachers in some subjects, explaining concepts, writing materials, testing knowledge, and far surpasses students at completing homework?
Definitely, I teach in the university, so sometimes I feel so frustrated when students submitted some stupid homework with AI without deleting the prompt, right? So it's basically shows a lot of things, right? The students not even bother to delete it. So it's very passive, very lazy, very stupid way to use AI. So my point is, not only higher education, but also fundamental education like elementary school. We should teach AI literacy. It's not about coding. It's not about what is AI and what kind of tool we should use, but the right relationship, the right attitude. And AI couldn't teach you how to judge, how to make decision, right? AI couldn't tell you what is good taste. And all of those, we call it meta skills, maybe meta connection. It requires long terms of time and maybe million times of practice and cultivation and on daily basis. Then you can accumulate some taste, some judgment, some decision making skills, and maybe you build up some intuition. Right, you have gut feeling, you don't have to think it through, but you know what is correct. And this is all not taught, in the school. But what we've been taught is to memorize the knowledge, some historic realities, some data, how to do the calculation, etc., etc. But it's irrelevant, as you put it this morning. So I think we need a paradigm shift on education. But how? This is a huge problem, not only in Russia, but also in China, because education is somehow traditional and conventional system, right? It's very difficult to change even a little piece of it. So I'm thinking about, what about we build something brand new, we build something from scratch, and we design something just for the future, for AI-driven curriculum and human-machine hybrid teaching system. So that's something also renew the evaluation. So I think that's something we should do. So back to the root of education is to help the students, the kids understand who they are and what kind of people they would love to become. I think that's the fundamental purpose.
Here at the Expert Dialogues today, we've discussed peak population extensively, but another term came up, peak education. What is the issue here? With AI so user-friendly, There's little incentive to study or innovate independently. AI handles it all. This creates a strong temptation to skip self-education and rely entirely on AI, especially as these tools grow ever more advanced. How can humanity sidestep this trap without letting education levels decline?
I think, take myself as example. So I think in between 9 to 12, around the age, is actually the emerging of curiosity. You became so curious about many things, the universe, the science, the literature, etc., etc. So I think before that, I think I will try to limit the use of AI without any, parents' guidance, because it's very risky before your children's neuron connection grow mature. So you just use something like an interface to cut it off from real feedback loop, which means you just basically stop there. You couldn't grow. You couldn't have your own identity, so to actualize, to be integral. And I think we have to encourage students to have real connection, which means you have to connect with real books, real reading through your own immersive, long time and in-depth reading. And also you have to think by yourself, and you have to write or speak, communicate with each other, and try to build up the relationship with other kids, with your parents, with the nature, with the animals, etc., etc. So I think this kind of real connection, authentic connection, is the critical part of education. It couldn't be replaced by a virtual interface. Otherwise, I think, first of all, the attention span will be getting shorter and shorter because too much distraction from all this pop-up news, and you can access to any kind of content immediately. So people's brain intend to seek for stimuli, right? So we seek for more, and it's just like drugs. So I think this is not a good way, not a healthy way to let our students encounter AI from the very beginning. So I think we have to be very, very carefully, because now AI basically is everywhere, and even the parents couldn't tell which one is real, which one is not. What about the kids? So they were born and raised in that environment. So basically they couldn't tell what is real or not. So which means in the future they might feel totally lost and confused and don't know who they are finally.
I completely agree. This is a critical issue. Education and how children interact with AI demands our utmost attention right now. But let's move on to the labor market. How will it evolve, which jobs will vanish, and what structural shifts will emerge?
I mean, a lot of junior level, white-collar work, because you're dealing with data, right? You're transform some kind of data collection into structuralized reports, analysis, and also client service. That kind of job will totally be replaced or automatically, taken away, because it's simple, it's repeat, and it not require human decision basically. So it can be remotely deliver, right? So I think those jobs basically will be taken over. But what surprisingly will be middle management, the manager, supervisor, director, that kind of level is not C-level but middle level. They'll be disappear as well, because once people find that it's just about information, information transformation, and there's no add value at all. And AI definitely can do a better, faster, and cheaper job. So what remains is the top and the lowest. The top means human decision to deal with difficult, complex situation scenarios. For example, you wanna buy the company, right? It's not that easy. It's not only about financially merge two companies together, but it's about the people, the structure, the strategy, the vision, everything. So it's multi-layers. Another one might still maintain their job is the blue collar, which means you need to physically present on site at the location. You need to use your physical body to do the real job, which AI or robotic still very expensive and not very stable, not very reliable. And human are way better, cheaper, and reliable. For example, have your haircuts, right? Nobody will have your hair cut by a robot. It could be very scary. So I mean, this could be the change happen very soon. I think within 5 to 10 years we will see this happening very quick.
You've just highlighted the key labor market trend: entry and mid-level roles blending together, with jobs concentrating at the extremes, top and bottom. So the first question is, how do you reach the top when those essential career ladder steps are gone?
That's a very good question. I think now the problem is we're losing junior positions, which means there's no entry level employees, and which means they couldn't practice, they couldn't cultivate, they couldn't gain real experience through working hours, right? So they will never be able to reach to the senior level, not mention to the top level. So basically the ladder was destroyed. So I think this is something we didn't figure out how to deal with yet. And I mean, I tell my students, at a certain point you have to create your own job in the future. You don't expect to find a job in the market, because there'll be no job for junior people like you, no matter what industry, no matter what positions. So people intend to hire senior employees, and maybe they are very resourceful, they have very unique skill, couldn't be replaced by AI, or maybe they just have good personality. They're lovely. They want to have this kind of lovely person in the organization to make everyone feels happy. So I think that's all very unique positioning of one employee. So I think we should rethink about the whole thing from the very beginning.
You can view this dynamic differently, picture it. We discussed this with an expert today, one group above AI, another below, with AI positioned squarely in the middle. Don't you see the risks of this inequality time bomb and even deeper social stratification?
Yes, and the problem is AI is evolving so fast. The iteration basically happen every week, so we can witness new tools, upgrading tools, new models coming out every week, or even every day, right? So people are so exhausted to catch up with all these new coming AI tools. Not to mention, like, if it was upgrade so fast, so people even in the industry are so difficult to catch up. What about the others? What about the ordinary people? They're out of the game. They're out of the league. They don't have the resources. They don't have the know-how. They don't even have the drive to to catch up. So I think they become the irrelevant class by the end of the day. So that's the most concerning part of the whole picture.
We also seen AI drive massive shifts in the creative economy and industries. It's already generating lyrics, music, and scripts. You know, my favorite AI joke. A woman says, "I've always dreamed of AI washing dishes in cooking, so I could make music and paint. But now, AI composes the music and paints the picture, leaving me to cook and wash dishes. What's left that's uniquely human, and how do we safeguard it?"
Yeah, I have a theory, it's called ecological niche. So which means if you already reach to the top of the pyramid, you are the master. So you don't have to be afraid of AI whatsoever. You can use AI tools, or even somebody will use AI tool to amplify your influence. So they will use the tools to adapt your story into movies, animations, comic books with very low cost. So there will be a safe line there. But if you're under the water line, so basically you don't have any opportunity, because it means in the market there are infinite cheap and mediocre content created by AI by any seconds, and it's so accessible. Anyone can read it, watch it. I just listened to a AI generated song. It was quite good. It's surprisingly good. And I feel like at a certain point we might go back to the middle age. We need some rich people or organization as sponsor. You need to, you need to pay for some young artists, even nobody's buying their works. You have to nurturing their creativity, because that's what's left for humanity. And I think it takes time for a young artist or writer or musician to accumulate the good taste. And creation is not just production, right? It's like making a series of decisions through time. And through time means you have to make different judgment, you have to decide, and you might sometimes make mistakes, but the time will prove you right or wrong, so create this feedback loop. So without this feedback loop, you can go anywhere. So this is how art or any other creative jobs, right? So basically we go there. But the circle is too long, it's too slow. AI is like that, so it's like iterate itself within nanoseconds. So to me, it's like always AI couldn't replace my authentic feeling, my authentic experience as a human being is subjective, right? And it couldn't replace my taste, my judgment, my aesthetical ethics. So I might see this better than that, no matter how many people like it or not. It's to me, it belongs to me, and it triggers certain kind of very unique feelings. It might trigger my memory as well. So all of those couldn't be replaced by AI. So I listened to the song generated by AI this morning. It feels very nice to listen to, but I didn't feel a thing. You know what I mean? I didn't feel it's connected to me. So I think still there's something belongs to human, belong to human creativity, what AI couldn't do yet. Yet.
I believe the near future will center of symbiosis between humans and machines. From my personal experience, AI accelerates creation. You propose a hypothesis, seek critics or ideas, and advance far quicker than before. Creative work in particular thrives in this partnership. It's set to play a pivotal role. Moving on, we've discussed our aging global population today, making healthcare transformation urgent. What do you see as the top priority here?
I think what's more important here is the scarcity, because we all know that like Russia and China were huge, huge in space, maybe huge in population, and also highly unequally distributed. All these resources, medical, education, information, infrastructure wise. So I think in the future, what's more important is we have like AI assistant doctor can reach not to the top of the human doctor level, but close enough, which means we can reduce a lot of misdiagnosis, and we can have so much quicker medication, treatment, and all these solutions prepare, and even we can prepare the medicines within days and ship to the patients, so which might reduce a lot of life loss, and which also reduce a lot of inequality of scarcity, right? So because it's massive. So I think this is more important that we require all this AI doctors reach to the top or even exceed the top level of human doctor, because that's impossible and that's not cost effective wise. So to me, the best thing is you can share some make sense medical care, even health care at home, no matter where you're living, and your elders, your parents, and can be taken care of with very high quality, but with less spending, and you can connect with them like all the time. It's real-time connection, and you understand what is going on immediately, and you can react to that, you can respond to that. So which means it saves a lot of time, and it will save a lot of lives as well.
Well, yes, predictive medicine isn't really about reaction speed, it's about prevention. For instance, take Moscow's healthcare platform, which I believe is one of the world's most advanced. A fully digital system with digitized data on every resident, including their health status and test results. It enabled a groundbreaking experiment. Late last year, analysis identified 150,000 of Moscow's 15 million residents, 1% at highest risks of heart attack or stroke in the next 6-12 months. The health system then launched targeted prevention, extra screenings and prophylaxis for this group. These initial steps already demonstrate its power.
Yes, I think that's very important. For example, my mom had a stroke. I told this story last year to Mr. President. So, but she didn't know anything. She feels a little bit dizzy, but the very second day she fell and she was taken to the hospital. But what if we have all the system detecting all the biomarkers, everything to prevent it from happening? So maybe she will be easier to recover, right? So I think this is all we need. We better prevent it from happening until it's too late.
Absolutely, as the symbiosis of traditional medicine and AI will unlock ways to extend active lifespans. The key isn't just treating illness after it strikes, but fostering conditions for prolonged health and vitality. Let's shift to the next topic. We've covered inequality risks within societies, but new technologies and AI also pose intersocietal divides. Today we discuss technological or digital colonialism. One side controls the solutions, leaving the other fully dependent on them. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely true. So I think now AI as a technology is highly centralized, no matter on computation power, no matter on all these models, all these data sets, all this application, and create this so-called data flywheel. So it's basically self-enhancement. So it's getting faster and faster. But what about all those countries don't have the infrastructure, don't have the data? So they might become the data colonialization is the victim. You sacrifice, you trade your data, you trade your market for nothing, and in the future it might become even worse, right? So it's like a monopoly market, so maybe dominant by several major platform. So could be very dangerous because you can see the power dynamic, the ideology, and the value behind all this model is quite similar, right? So it's homogeneous. And what we need is more diverse models, diverse AIs, which means open source, which means public infrastructure, also which means data rights, and also means transparency, right? So this is what we're missing here. What we're missing here in the big structure. So I think we don't want to continue the same old story. We don't want a colonialization repeat in the AI age, and it will become even more extreme. So how to do that? How to break this dead end? We need more open source platform and models. So which means we should all connect together because so many talents out there, right? And so much data sets out there, but it's just not carefully collected and carefully handled. And also there's some endangered language and culture, right? So it's marginalized culture, but it's not preserved well enough. It's not be carefully protected, and all of those could be a very enriched part and diverse and inclusive part of our future AI. So I think this should be a international collaboration altogether. We should build a more diverse AI environment or ecology in the future.
Well, the problem is evident, and I fully agree with your conclusion. Institutional economics offers the prisoner dilemma model. Two prisoners face jail. Mutual silence yields the best joint outcome. If one confesses while the other stays quiet, the confessor wins big, and the silent one suffers most. Mutual betrayal is suboptimal too. Theory shows that without external enforcement for cooperation, the system devolves into mutual deception. Regrettably, some nations today prioritize profiting at others' expense over collaborative progress. Yet I'm optimistic that humanity can surmount this through joint effort and constructive competition-driven development. Collaboration is indeed the optimal path. On AI and geopolitics, here's a provocative question. If every country had an AI foreign policy advisor, would wars become more likely or less?
That's a good point. That's a very good point. I think it really depends because behind the technology is actually politics, right? And politics relate to one is interest, national interest, and another thing is the mentality. I would say the mentality because now is within the arm raising mentality. So each country might be FOMO, so they see the competition as a zero-sum status, which means if I get advanced, maybe the other country might get weaker. But actually that's not all true, right? For example, if we share, of course it's not that easy said and done. If we share the know-how, if we share the data set, if we share the open source model, like all the advancement we achieve in science and technology will be beneficial for all mankind, which means it's a positive sum gain. So it's not about me win, you lose. It's about win-win. But secondly, I think it's also about the traditional national state narrative. It's basically driving all of us into a nutshell. So we're all thinking about extracting, enslaving, and capturing more because we are in that kind of mentality. We are very paranoid. We are very anxious. We even fear of missing out, right? So I think the question is why? Why would have to be fear of? even the scarcity, even all this, access poverty we create on this planet is more than enough for everyone. But because of the distribution system was designed and inherited by the old framework like capitalism. So it couldn't be changed, it couldn't be shifted in that way. So which means we'll continue like this, entering a dead loop. But I mean, all the paradigm shift, all the revolution should start from consciousness, should start from our head, start from our belief system. But that's the most difficult part to be changed.
Another key aspect is the profound shift in societal trust among people, companies, and nations. How do we maintain trust when AI can effortlessly fake an image, voice, video, or evidence? We're already at a stage where detecting such fakes grows ever harder. What becomes of trust in an AI-driven society?
When you talk about symbiosis, basically symbiosis is about trust. It's about two different structure of living things was merged into one greater structure and still maintain each one of its functioning, and which means they build up a higher hierarchical structure of protocol of communication, of transmission of energy, material, information, and which means trust. So without trust, there's no symbiosis, there's no coexistence, there's no co-evolving as well. So I mean, human and AI should build up that trust. Also, human and human should build up that trust. Country and country should build up that trust. But how, right? So how is that trust be built up? I think we should going back to the old tradition of narrative, storytelling, how to tell a new story to compel and to convince each part of it. So this is the big question. If you see the reality, you see the present days from 100 years after, would that be a problem still? I just wonder if the Earth continue within this trajectory, will there be any countries on this planet within 1 century? I highly doubt that. So I think we're at the very edge of the cliff, like we're pushing ourselves towards the cliff, but just nobody wants to step on the brake because we all fear to be thrown away from this bullet train. So this is how I see it.
One more point. What becomes of culture and traditions in AI-driven world? If we rely on general models, especially those trained mostly on data from dominant cultures, will there still be room for diverse cultures and traditions?
I think that's the work we have to do. I just visited the Book of Fairy Tale, the exhibition here. It was fantastic. I was so impressed by all this rich, diverse, fairy tale stories and how the team built up this immersive, interactive content experience. So I think this is the good way to show us, tradition, cultures, even like lost civilizations could be restored, could be preserved, could be reinvented in a modern way with technology, right? With the assistance of AI for sure. The problem is, do we have the eyes? Do we have the ability to recognize them? Do we have the intention to protect them? So it's about the power dynamic. So the world is full of beauty, full of wonders. But the problem is, should we just keep everything as the same, just like the globalization 1.0, right? Basically, it's the dead end because it means Americanization. It goes to nowhere. So how can we maintain everything within its own place, preserve its own nuance and authenticity, but meanwhile, we agree to appreciate each other. So I think that's the problem of also, again, trust, protocol, and telling the new story altogether.
Yes, thank you very much. To wrap out our discussion, there's my final traditional question. What single key idea would you share with government leaders, executive, and everyday people?
I want to urge everyone, when you try to think or speak of AI, you don't use, AI will cause unemployment, but instead, the way we choose to use AI will cause unemployment. So this is the perspective shift. It's not the technology to doing all the bad things. It's us. It's the decision we make causing everything bad. So take the responsibility and think and speak and act carefully, because that's the only way we can steer the ship around. We can not to hit the iceberg. We can find the new destination. So that's the hope for not only the human beings, but also the planet.
Thank you very much. We're joined today by Mr. Chen. We've truly explored the future, and it's vital to discuss it, envision it, and craft scenarios for it to better prepare and shape a brighter one. Thank you again.